Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Telegeriatric weekly meeting. Today is May 15th. Our agenda for this meeting is presentation about how to write or how we write grant proposal. Dr. Ali Muhammad and I will be presenting that presentation. We do have some updates about from our colleague from AGS conference, if we have any updates, and our colleague Dr. Mulham will present new guidelines from the CDC regarding the vaccinations and coronavirus. So we will start with Dr. Ali. If you can make him the host so he can present.
Ali, now you have co-host. If you can share, you want to share the screen? Ali, you are muted.
Ali?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, if you would like to share your screen, please. You're still muted.
I think the connection comes and goes.
Okay.
Can't you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's good. So can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, let's start. Hello everyone, and happy Eid to you all. Today, Lubaba and I are going to present an important topic for researchers. It's about writing a grant proposal. Our learning objectives today is to define a grant proposal and know its basic principles. We want to know what are the prerequisites to writing and what are the common mistakes. Lubaba will discuss with you the types of NIH grants and how to write NIH grant proposal. So let's start. There are many definitions to grant proposal, but I found this one most useful and practical. It was defined by University of Wisconsin. A grant proposal is a very clear, direct document written to a particular organization or funding agency with the purpose of persuading the reviewers to provide you with support. And that is because of two reasons. First, you have an important and fully considered plan to advance a valuable cause. And secondly, because you are responsible and capable of realizing that plan. Knowing that, what are the basic principles of grantsmanship? Well, a good idea is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Successful grant application is vital, and actually, it is an exercise in communication. Moreover, the system helps those who know the system very well. If you have a good idea and if you have a valuable cause, but you cannot communicate well with the system and you don't know the system very well, then this would be not of benefits. The fourth point about persistence and resilience. So don't quit, revise, and resubmit. When we write a proposal, we need to see how reviewers see our proposal and what are the criteria. So these are the criteria for most NIH grant applications. First, significance. How is your project significant to the community in the first place and to the funding agency? Who are the investigators? What are their qualifications? What are their background? And what are their reputation like? Innovation is also an important point. Is your idea is your idea new one, or it's just more of the same? The approach, you are going to write it in details because everyone wants to know how are you going to spend his money or her money. Environment is also important because different environment requires different approach. Before writing, we need to do many things in order to master writing the proposal. First, we need to develop a plan. Grant proposals are direct and to the point, so start by formulating and clarifying your ideas. Ask yourself, do you have a clear, concise, and testable hypothesis? Are your objectives and aims coming into focus? And what questions are to be addressed? Next, develop a specific, meaningful, actionable plan for what you want to do, and importantly, why you want to do it. Then consider how your plan will achieve positive results. Your objectives need to be SMART, meaning they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. After you develop your plan, you need to build your team because research is highly interdisciplinary and no one person can do it all perfectly. So start by yourself. Know what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, what you can do and what you cannot do. Then ask your seniors, peers, and younger scientists to join your team. Seniors will provide you with their valuable experience. Peers are essential for ideas, critical review, teaching you techniques that you don't know, and suggesting funding sources. Younger scientists will help you techniques. Next is to know the grant maker very well. You should do your research to make sure that the organization's mission aligns with your plan. You need to read the proposal guidelines carefully and follow them exactly. Many experts advise that you need to examine sample proposals that were or are funded by the organization. This will help you to know some of the hidden preferences of the organization and the unspoken budget limits. You also need to make sure that your proposal fits with the mission of the agency and that your objectives match with those of the agency. All those points wouldn't be of much value if you do not make this match explicit and clear in your written application. It's also important to develop a persuasive argument. After knowing the grant maker and doing your research, you should think about the kind of information this organization will find to be the most convincing. Maybe it's numbers, so collect the data and present them in a good way, or testimonials, or recommendations from other collaborators, or maybe it's a historical precedent. So the take-home message here is that you need to think closely about how you construct your argument in relationship to your reader. Of course, you need to read extensively. Be sure you are up to date on techniques, literature, and emerging theories. Because if you do not collect relevant data as well as manage and update it, there is not much that can be done. It's also advisable to make a checklist and mark your calendar because you don't want to miss the deadline. In one agency, about 25% of applications were incomplete and required that the applicant submit additional information urgently. So I think that's not a good start, and you don't want to be one of these applicants. Don't be shy to ask for help. Talk with professors, mentors, previous grant recipients, and trusted advisors in your field. This will help you to learn more about what successful grant proposals look like and to get feedback from them. If you have any doubts or questions, you can contact the relevant granting agency person who will welcome your questions and answer them. In fact, many grant agencies offer you an officer's advice who is specialized in specific research area that is of interest to you. So you can use help from there. After all this and before writing your proposal, you need to ask yourself, who are you and who are your colleagues? Who are you going to target? What are the specific aims and objectives of this project? How are you going to conduct your project methodology, and how much you are going to need to do this project? More importantly, why are you doing it? Why is it worth doing? And of course, where is it going to be done? Now, moving to the common mistakes that you do not want to do. Problem with the goals include being unrealistically ambitious, too much work proposed, or if you do not clearly define priorities and there is uncertain future direction. If your idea is not innovative, that would be problematic, because if it's just repeated and it's an old one, uh, I don't think you will get accepted easily. So stay away from being just the same as older applicants. Regarding the investigators, problem like inadequate demonstration of expertise or publications in approaches, or if there are no collaborators recruited, or no letters from collaborators. Maybe your team lack a more senior collaborator. So you need to stay away from these mistakes. Moving to the approach, common mistakes include not including results of pilot study or other preliminary data, or writing one generic application and send off duplicates to different foundations. And believe me, you don't want to do this, because at a first glance, these experts will know and will differentiate between a generic application and a customized one. So please write a carefully customized proposal. If you did not include discussion of alternative models or hypotheses, that would be a mistake. And if you miss discussion of potential pitfalls, because everyone knows that you may face difficulties, they want to know how are you going to deal with these problems. Well, regarding the budget, problems like being the budget is unrealistic or there is inadequate budget justification. Many experts advise that to include a detailed justification, including maybe the equipment cost, the trainee cost, maybe the travel or any other direct cost categories. With this, I'm going to leave you with Lubaba to walk you through the types of NIH grants and how to write the proposal. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ali, for the great presentation. If I can share my screen to continue. You see my screen? So as Ali mentioned, he walked us how to prepare for writing the proposal, the grant proposal. And we're gonna focus more about the NIH grants, because this is most likely the one that you guys going to encounter in your career life. So we are focusing on that, and it's going to provide with the basic writing tools for any other funding. So the types of NIH grants, there is many types, more than you can imagine. The most important one is a research grant, or also known as the R series. Those are the one that most likely with health care professionals that you guys going to encounter. Other types are the research training and career development. Those most known of those are the K series, and these include individual fellowships, institutional awards, and career development awards, etc. There is another type that is a small business grants. There is clinical research center grants. There is conference grants, administrative supplements, and actually loan repay programs through the NIH. We're going to talk, as I mentioned, that the most one that we are going to encounter, maybe we're going to submit for, is the research series, which is our series. Those are considered the largest category of funding and support by the NIH. There is different departments, but mostly by the deafness and communication disorders. There is multiple subcategories. There is R01, R15, R21, R33, depending on what the grant is for. So R01 is actually the largest single category for supported or support provided by NIH. And it is the one that's considered the traditional grant mechanism. Usually it's provided for universities, medical schools, health professional providers, hospitals, etc. Usually these grants cover the salaries, equipment, travel, and expenses that's directly to the research and indirectly to the institution or the organization holding the research. Usually this R01 is awarded to organization on behalf of actually principal investigator. Program or research that is held by the NIH, this grant will be provided to a specific institution to further pursue this research for the assigned investigator. So it's just like an extension for research is already ongoing. We had a brief idea about the types of the NIH grants. Now we're gonna learn how we can try our best to write a good grant and get the funding. So the proposal say that you already found your funding opportunity on announcement, and you are ready you prepared your team and you are ready to write the grant proposal. It's usually about 13 pages. It has 3 sections. For the new grant proposal, you're going to have an introduction to the application. And actually, no, the introduction for application is for resubmission. So the new application is going to start with the specific aims and the research strategy. The introduction to application is usually for resubmission when you are submitted already your proposal, but the reviewer asks for additional stuff. So you're gonna write an introduction, where are you now, and what's your aims? And then you go on for the other 2 sections. So the specific aims, usually the specific aims about 1 page. So you're trying to use the 13 page very wisely to present your idea, and actually, as Ali mentioned, to persuade the reviewer, the reader to consider you for the funding. So you're gonna state concisely the goals proposed for the research and summarize the expected outcomes. You wanna make sure that you list the specific objectives and the research proposed. For example, the test hypothesis and the creative novel design, or you have we wanna solve a specific problem. You wanna provide the specific ways that you're going to solve this problem. You wanna present your idea and your hypothesis and how you're going to approach this hypothesis and what is the outcome of this you are expected to do. So this is need to be concisely in 1 page. Usually specific aims are about 3 or 4 aims, or 2 to 3 most likely. They need to be not dependent on each other. For example, your first specific aim is not, their second one is not dependent on the first one, because if you are not able to achieve the first one, you have another one that you want to work on it when the reviewer asks you for it. So some specific aims is a big topic. We are trying to just give an introductory and just like to give you headlines, and you can go read further about it. Now we're going to talk about the research strategy. As Ali mentioned, strategies including like you have your investigators, your teams, and you want to focus on the significance and the innovation and approach of your research. So you want to present why the problem from the first place, why this is the problem for you, and you want to do a research on it, and how your proposed method or idea is going to change this practice, for example, clinical practice, or how the concept, the methods and the technology that you will drive will be a change to what's been done now, and in addition to how you're going to fulfill those aims that you provided them. The other part of the strategy is it has to be like innovative. So you're going to explain in this writing how the application challenge and seeks the shift of the current research to practice, and describe any novel concepts or methodologies to be developed and advantages over the existing ones. So you want to convey that what you are proposing is something going to change what's currently being done to a better practice, to a smarter practice. So you want to add this in the innovation part. How to approach the strategy or try the strategy. So you're going to describe overall strategy, the methodology. This section needs to be detailed. The methodology, the analysis to be used to accomplish the specific aims. Like you're going to speak about each specific aim extensively with details, how you're going to approach that and how you're going to achieve that. Whether it's a data collection, how you're going to collect that data, how you're going to interpret the data, what are the resources that you're using. You're going to discuss also the potential problems that you foresee when doing this, and what alternatives do you have if you encounter those problems. Also, importantly, you have to point every situation or materials that should be expected to be hazardous to the personnel, and what are the precautions to be taken to avoid those. So all of this need to be detailed, but yet smartly presented on the writing the strategy. So for the approach, actually, there is two sections. It differ depending on whether you are submitting for the first time as a new application, or this is a revision. So if you are submitting for a new application, so you need to provide the preliminary studies. These include information for preliminary studies that as part of the approach section discussion from the principal investigator or the director's preliminary study, data experience pertinent to the application. So you want to provide stuff that you already did before to support your new application. And this section actually is really mandatory when you are submitting for R33. As we mentioned, there is many types. So for those types, specific types, the preliminary studies are mandatory to be written in the strategy or in the application. For a revision or review, you're going to provide a progress report. This must include the beginning and ending date of the covered period, and what are the new things that you added after the reviewer ask you to add. You need to summarize the specific aims of the previous projects period and importance of the findings, emphasize the progress made towards the achievement. Including any significant change on the specific aims or directions. If you remember, as I mentioned in the specific aims, it needs to be independent on each other, because if you encounter something, you have still other aims that you are working on it. So this is going to be provided in the progress report. If you fail to, or say not successfully achieve the first or the second specific aim, you are trying to change the direction you want to explain that on the progress report, including any printed material, or you submitted any manuscript, you're going to add it to the progress report. We tried our best to provide you with a brief introductory to how to write a successful NIH grant, but always remember, don't give up, keep writing. It's really hard work. I need to, as Ali mentioned, you need to focus on the deadline, give yourself a good amount of time, collect all your resources that you need to collaborate with, ask for help. Try your best to get all of the expertise that will help you in writing, and keep going. And sometimes it will be ending with rejection, but it's always, rejection is a good opportunity to improve, and take the reviewer's criticism seriously, but not slavishly. Those are our resources and references, and welcome your questions. Thank you. I'm going to start sharing. Anyone has a question? Please feel free to ask. Okay, Marwa.
Well, first, thank you, Ali and Lubaba, for this amazing presentation. This topic is totally new for me, and I had no clue about it, so it made it very easy for me to know at least the basics and the important things about it. I just have two questions regarding I know this is like a big topic, but just like if you have any idea about when we write such a proposal, can we use, for example, terminologies or terms and scientific terms like this, or should it be like simple? Like, I mean, like, who are the people who review these generally? Will they be people who would understand scientific terminologies and you tailor it that way, or should it be like somewhat like more of like a simple language? Just like if you have any idea about this part. And my second question regarding the specific parts about you mentioned significance of force. Are these for example, these are like headlines that you write, or are these like big headlines you have?
Sorry, Marwa, to interrupt. Can you guys unmute yourself? I don't know.
I think he just has very bad service, but
I'm not sure, someone's mic is open. Continue, I'll try to hear you well. Thank you.
No worries.
Your
So,
second question?
regarding the for example, the significance and the approach and all of these, are these like the big headlines and there are like sub headlines under these, or how does it go? Like, for example, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marwa. I'll try to answer you regarding writing the terminology and who is going to review your proposal. Actually, as the tips written about how to write the proposal, you always expect that there is someone is out of the expertise. We're going to be asked to review your proposal. So for this reason, I think you need to clarify any terminology. They mentioned, I'm not sure about the terminology specifically, but they mentioned that if there is not familiar like acronym, you need to specify that and try, because you're always putting in your mind someone is not expert going to be asked to review your application. And in regarding to, yeah, those points are actually subheadings under the strategy. You wanna mention that and discuss about the significance, the innovation part, and all of those. I hope I answered you. So Ali, go ahead, please. You want to add something?
Thank you.
Yes. I just want to ask something to Marwa. Actually, that's an important point you raised, Marwa. Thank you. Many experts advise against the use of jargon or abbreviations as much as you can. If you have to use some abbreviation or acronym, you need to explain them, but stay away from them as much as you can.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali and Baba, for the answer. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question, comment? Feel free to use the chat box if you want. Thank you. Dr. Nader is away for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Lubaba and Ali, for your presentations. It's very informative. Thank you so much. I just been curious, how long does it take for the grant to be accepted and submitted, and how long the process takes? Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a great question. I'm not sure exactly how long it takes, but I know that there is multiple review points. Maybe Ali, if you have an idea about how usually it takes to be accepted.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for your question. Actually, there are some experts that advise you to work in your proposal 1 year ahead, and you specify your, I don't know, the different agency have different timeline and different acceptance time, but what's important is that you follow the exact guidelines and the instructions by the agency you are applying to. I hope I answered your question. And also, I think Marwa has another question. Thank you.
Marwa, your hand from previously, or you have a new question?
Yeah, I just remembered, Ali, in your presentation, you mentioned the part about collaborators, and I don't know if you can just explain more about it. I think you said like generally, like as part of a team, you need to have collaborators, and you can shed more light on that. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe I can share my screen. Just a minute. Okay. Can you hear me? No?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so yes, as I have said, you need a team to perfectionize your work. Get help from anyone you trust, anyone you can you think he might be, sorry, uh, you may ask anyone if you want some seniors, if you need a colleague or peer to help you, or a younger scientist according to your situation, and also according to your strengths and weakness, and see, because you can't do anything, maybe you are perfect at some aspects, so you leave it to yourself. And if you maybe, I don't know, if you are not expert in specific areas, you can use the help from other colleagues or seniors. I hope that answers your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit about it. Yeah, it's usually teams. For example, you can think about it if your opportunity for the funding that you found is for multi-center kind of research. So you want to build the team in different centers and then collaborate with all of those members to build your big team. So you are going to be the principal investigator for that research, but you have other collaborators. They are like sub investigators under you in different centers, and then you're gonna collaborate with them. So I think this is just another point to it. Thank you for the question, Marwa.
Thank you, Lubaba.
You're welcome. Anyone else had a comment, question? The topic is really big, yani, to be honest. It's not, it's really big, and each section of it, it's maybe need a presentation by itself, but we tried our best to give you an introductory idea about it. So when you go and read about it more, you will learn more. For example, the strategy itself, when you talk about the details about the significance and the approach. And so the approach itself, it has multiple sections, and you're going to provide multiple tables about your how you're going to conduct your plan, who are those stakeholders, specifically when you come and talk about the funding and how you're going to spend the grant. So they will ask you to write specifically exactly how are you going to spend the money. So this is a big part of the strategy and the writing as well. So a lot of subheading under the title that we gave you, but this is just introductory for more digging. Any more questions, or should we shift gears?
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much, Lubaba. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for very helpful, concise presentation, both of you. I just want to share, when I was doing my fellowship, I come across my first opportunity to write a grant proposal, and it was funded by an award for geriatric medicine. So I wrote it. It's a very, I was talking about smoking cessation in all the adults, the idea. And I was trying to use videos to convey all the adults to stop smoking. And I recorded some of the patients who quit smoking successfully. So they want to share their experience and how they did that. The funding agencies can be very small ones and can range from small to big to the NIH. So if you plan to write a proposal, one thing you can do is to start with the small proposals, small agency funding. Mine was funded for $2,000 when I started. They offer from 2,000 to 20,000 at that time. So I started with small, but later on I rewrite and wrote different ones, and actually they are funding now this fellowship. So it depends. And as you mentioned, the sticky part is how you're gonna use the money. if they offer you the funding. So the budget part is very tricky one. So, but thank you, everyone. This is really great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nader, for the addition. That's true. Just an example, like as Dr. Nader mentioned, it's easier to maybe submit for small funding organizations because you can follow their announcement exactly for the criteria. For example, 2 weeks ago, we were excited to submit for funding opportunity that we found to do the vaccine awareness, but when we came to study the criteria, we found that it's not supporting universities, for example. So this is highlight the point that Ali mentioned about reading the announcement carefully, and always, I forgot to mention this in the how to write the strategy. You want to abide by the announcement first, and then you're going to use the other steps that I mentioned. So it's always good to first study the announcement very well and then build your proposal based on that. Anything else, Ali, we missed? Just want to add?
Actually, I want to comment on Dr. Nadir's input. Thank you very much. I came across many experts' opinions and advices. Actually, they advise us as a beginners to start by small grants because you can win them easily or much easier than the big ones. And it also can give you the credibility and background, and your reputation will go up, because if you have won previously a grant, that means you are good applicants, you are a hard worker, and so on. So it's a good idea to start with a small grants and go further. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Somi.
Yeah, thank you, Lubaba and Ali, for this is very informative. And also I want to share my experience. So I thought like it would be helpful. As Dr. Nadir and Ali mentioned, it is always good to start with a small, things, because I don't even want to risk for like, I think like 100K or something, that type of, like fund. So that's why while I was in my master's program, so my, my advisor or mentor, she recommended that that was a curriculum actually is a part of the, program, that how to write grant. So basically this vaccine awareness program was my part of my curriculum. So when I wrote it and I submitted for my final submission, so she encouraged me that why don't you, submit that as a real proposal? Like that was my regular curriculum, but she wants me to, contact with some like a small grant and then submit it, and let's see how it goes. So that's exactly what I did. I was looking for some small grant for like, local community or like public, as my master's is global health major, but public health. So, local community and public health programs and all that, like how can I have that grant? So it was like, 5,000 grant. I mean, in between 2,000 to 5,000 grant throughout like 1 year program. So I can use that grant for anything, like for my tuition fee for my master's program, or my materials to make it, or like anything. They just provide that scholarship, I mean that grant, and I can do anything what I want. So yeah, it worked. And I think I share my proposal with a couple of my colleagues, like a couple of you, but yeah, I will probably can send, I probably can upload in the app if that's necessary. But that was a very good experience, and I was really excited because it was not expected. Actually, I thought like, okay, randomly just apply and we'll see. But when I heard from them, I think one thing is luck, I would say, because it is the right time for that, awareness, like a vaccine awareness for the right. I think I submitted in the right time in a right institution. So that's what it worked out, because everybody is now very worried about vaccines and like awareness, hesitancy, barriers. And at the same time, as I discussed last time, like, all the vaccine rates are very low all over the world, I guess. So, they want someone to work for that. So this is important too. You have to find out the right things to right time. So by that way, your grant will be accepted. I mean, your proposal will be accepted, and there is a like heavy chance to, because I applied for that's a Authority Health, that is a government organization, and it's Michigan, it's approved. I mean, it's collaborate with the Michigan Health Department. So it's their goal to increase immunization and, to overcome the vaccine hesitancy and barriers and all that. So I think that's the perfect time for these things. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to find out a right person in the right institution in a right thing. And like how, because when I was interviewed after proposals, there was a committee that I have to interview, and then I had to interview, and then they asked so many questions like, what do you think? They literally there was a panel, and they asked me, this is the scenario, and how would you overcome that? And what do you think, like your proposal is exceptional than others, and what are the new thing you are proposing, and what's your goal? Like, are you going to increase the vaccination rate, or are you going to overcome the hesitancy or barriers, or do you do like easier plan to make an multiple events for immunization in different institutions, something like that. They have, so we have to be very well prepared. That's what I felt like. It's really, really very thorough. And before giving you, it can be a very small grant, but it is a big grant for me, regardless of the money. It's at least it will provide me for my 2-semester tuition, which is a huge thing for me. But but it's very thorough. Like, it does not matter like a small grant or like a big grant, but it's very thorough. And I felt like I learned a lot, because literally I had to go through all the data and learn the whole things about how to collect this data and how my idea will help them and solve something. So which is a big thing. But as Lubaba mentioned also, this is from my one things that I am I was successful. But at the same time, as I work for a research specialist at UFM, that's the cancer research. So me and my supervisor also wrote a proposal for a grant, like a prostate cancer. It's like a prostate cancer, not a prostate cancer awareness, but the things is like how to, how to discuss doing like PSA or like a prostate exam in a very like young age group, like let's say 40, because most of the people think that prostate cancer or PSA test or like a prostate examination, that is for the people like who are 50 and 60 and above. But we have to do the NCS guideline, so National Cancer Guidelines. So now they're saying like based on their recommendation, if the family history has a strong family history and other risk factor, we should at least, as a primary care physician also, we should at least discuss what's the importance of doing PSA at a young age. So I wrote that proposal for the same thing like NCI, but it did not work out. But again, but we did not stop. We learned from that, what's the what they are thinking, and what are the new things that I want to implement. But we keep trying. Last, exactly same thing. We started 1 year back. And now the problem is because of the COVID, as most of the primary things are like telemedicine. So, the screening, any screening procedure like mammogram and lung, like CT, low dose CT, those are all like in a very low rate, of course, because people are very aware about worried about COVID instead of doing the screening stuff, including pap smear. But still, what I'm trying to convey the message is like, you have to still keep trying. So I'm gonna submit that again this September. And I think again, this is a like, like a good time, because we are gonna tell them that, see, this is due to COVID, all screening things like rate is very low. So, this is our time to discuss those things in order to prevent cancer, or like, prevent something like, going like, even some people does prostatectomy and they thought like, okay, like we don't need to do any screening stuff and all that. So, like that's an example, like it has both direction, but you just have to keep doing it and learn from your mistake. And like, most of like it's there is a quite chance that you maybe not successful, like you may not accepted your proposal, but you learn a lot from those things. Again, thank you, Lubaba and Ali, for your great presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your experience with the proposal. And that's really, congratulations again. It was really well written. I saw it. I'm just wondering, did you receive any review, like you had to resubmit it, or they accepted from the first time?
Very good question, Lubaba. Yeah, so from the reviewer committee, so I have a mentor from Michigan State University who reviewed for me, and for the before submitting the proposal. But because every proposal, again, same thing, they have their own criteria, and they are very strict about their criteria. You may write a very good proposal in a different way, but if it does not fit into their criteria, they don't care about it. So yeah, so which is very important, and one thing I want to mention, I forgot to mention when I was talking to, like very for citation, for grammatical mistake, or like I would say like formatting, this is very key stuff and basic stuff. Make sure like those are well you follow exactly their criteria. Because when I was reviewing some proposal with my supervisor, I can see like if even a mistake, spelling mistake, like 2 or 3 spelling mistakes, they don't even care about how good the proposal is. They don't just review it. So which is very important, because we are very new and we are in our early career, so we have to know all ABCs, so which is like very important. And yeah, my proposal was reviewed by my academic mentor, and when I submitted to them, one of the physician, I guess he has a background of like masters of public health, and finally I came to know that he is the program director also for that program, which is like very scary job for me, because he has lots of questions about my proposal. And then he told me that we can set up a Zoom meeting, and I will go over with your proposal, and then you have to just, some of the stuff you just have to rephrase it based on our based on their setting. Because I just wrote it based on general setting, like, because they want their proposal to be perfect for their clinic, or like this is an underserved community. So, how people will accept me, or like like how I'm gonna like educate them, and what maybe the barriers is. It's not only like they do not know. Sometimes the people does have insurance, people does not have a vehicle to come to the clinic and then get vaccinated. So those are one kind of barriers. Another is like like they are in the nursing home bound patient, and they have no clue, like they cannot they are probably disabled. So we have to communicate with them with a like like her caregiver or something. So there are some obstacles. So he wants me to rephrase it and like restructured it a little bit. And after that not resubmit, I submitted again based on, because they like first of the thing, what I understand that they like my idea and the content, but they want the content has to be fit in their criteria group, on their group of population. So I had to rephrase it a little bit, and then I submitted it. But it was like after that, the director of like, I think the quality assurance director, she also reviewed it, and she make me change a little bit, not like very minor changes. and I did that and include some of them, and then final submission I did. And I mean, from their perspective, I came to understand that, it's going to be accepted because they contact me. And then when I was accepted and from the orientation, they want me to discuss with my proposal, because with there are other 2 grants also. So from there, I came to know that this similar project also, there are 2 other people also submitted. So I was, I was curious, like why the proposal was not accepted. So as I'm saying, like it has to be fit into their criteria and then their group of population and what the greatest need. You have to identify, this is very, very important, like, how your idea is going to change their something, or like probably a practice, or probably a a group of population, how you motivate them, and you just have to convince. So those are all together, those are all things are equally important, I guess. Excuse me. Thank you, Lubaba.
Thank you so much, Sumi. Thank you so much for explaining that. I think that this brings up the discussion. I learned it somewhere that it is first like you find the funding opportunity announcement, or you present your idea and seek the organization to provide funding for you. So what you discussed, I think it lies under that. Thank you so much, Sumi. Thank you, Marwa. Thank you, everybody, for your input about the presentation. We're going to switch gears now. Anyone has any feedback from the AGS conference? Attended any kind of session that's found to be interesting, or feel free to share. If no one has a feedback, I think we will allow the floor for Dr. Mulham Mbadda to give us the updates regarding the vaccine.
I think you're mute.
Yeah. Your headphone, I think we can't hear you. You're not muted, but we can't hear you. Maybe the headset.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you. Yes.
Perfect. Assalamu alaikum. And thank you, Rabab, for giving me this position to speak. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry about being delayed and not attending your session at the start. And I probably know it was great, and I will attend back to it in the recordings. That being said, thank you. The report that we have seen, this is very interesting. We have all read it, have seen it. There's a lot of discussion about it. This is the CDC report, which is based on the recent vaccines, saying that we are kind of returning back to normal. So this is a big decision that they did. It's a game changer, because initially it was on the left side, which is you need to be strict, we need to be careful. And suddenly right now, whoa, we need to be returning back to normal. We need to return back to life, which is something we need to discuss, I think. And please, this is more of a discussion. We need to bring our thought process into this. And I'll just bring different thought ideas and different discussions that have been conducted yesterday and today, and what have been happening. And please, everyone, feel free to discuss this in more details. So based on the CDC report, they mentioned that it is all right now to be active, returning back to life, be more into indoors, and outdoors activities are normal or should be normalized in terms of not wearing masks anymore. Also, that's in also certain situations. That's what they said. The second thing they said, it is domestic travels. So you don't need to wear masks. Oh, sorry, you don't need to be tested in those situations if you are vaccinated. So it's all based on one point, actually, which is vaccination. And I missed that at the start, excuse me for that. But it is the point that they mainly focus on vaccination point, which is if you're vaccinated, you can do this and this and this. And my thought process is based on they're trying to force the hesitant phase that Sumi mentioned last week. There's 3 phases that she mentioned, that 1/3 who were interested to get vaccinated are vaccinated. The 1/3 who are hesitant, they're still in the same phase. We don't know how to get them. So I think this is the phase that right now what they're acting on, and this is their big decision. It's very risky, but they made that decision. So let's discuss that into more details. So the report, there's a couple of things that we need to bring into the discussion here, which is the state-by-state percentage of vaccination varies. So not all states can have the same or apply the same recommendation based on CDC. Some states or cities or counties, they have 10%, 70% of vaccination. Can they apply that? That's very risky. The age group of the risky population or the people with chronic illnesses, patients beyond 65 years old, are not yet vaccinated. So that's why I believe not all states can apply this based on that, and it should be taken into consideration that point as well. But I will say that what they have based was kind of based on 2 points. That's just my hypothesis based on this point. It was political based, so that they were pressured to a degree to open the country because of the traveling and all that. They need back the economy to return back to normal. That's something that is needed at the moment. The second thing is based on kind of science. Kind of, I'm saying that because there is recent studies right now, which is 3 studies which show that vaccinated individuals are less prone to develop the disease. And they checked the levels of the serum levels, and everything showed that they didn't develop the disease. But the population size that they assessed were very low and different age groups, so it's not enough to make that risky decision at this moment. The majority expected that there will be some recommendations, but not at this level. Probably somewhere 2 or 3 or 6 months, that is close to the end of the year. So there's a lot of things. One example, based on what they did right now, many areas are starting to change their recommendations. For example, today, Walmart, Trader Joe's, Costco's, very famous companies, suddenly said, you don't need to wear masks in our areas if you are vaccinated. So the question becomes, how can they tell if you are vaccinated? So will they ask everyone to get their cards? So it's something to think about it. So they made a chaos based on the report. Nothing was very explained in detail, just highlights, and that results in chaos. Many right now. I have just been traveling from one state to another. That's why the reason I was late. I have noticed majority are not wearing masks. They feel that, all right, CDC said that, so we can do that. So we will see the effects from today, tomorrow, and hopefully they rephrase it in a better way so that we have a better understanding of what is going on and the public understand what should be done. Because right now states are saying no. The people say, should we believe science, that is CDC, or should we believe the state? So that's very contradictory to people and confusing. That being said, please everyone share your points and let's have a deep discussion based on those points. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mulham. This is really great points that you brought up. Actually, as you said, it's going to bring a lot of chaos, and it's going to be maybe CDC recommendation, as you mentioned, based on the vaccination, but how to prove that you are vaccinated. As far as I know, in Gulf area and countries, Saudi, UAE, they develop some application in their phones that will show whether you have symptoms, whether you are vaccinated, and you have to show them whenever you are going to. But I assume this is not going to be done in US, the country big. And as you mentioned, it's a state by state, having people, percentage of people vaccinated varies. I think people need to be following their state's recommendation rather than CDC from my point of view. I am afraid this move might bring up a lot of another spike in the cases. I hope not, but it seems that if people are not wearing masks from your experience, and you're not going to be sure that whoever next to you is vaccinated or not, he has symptoms or not. So it's kind of risky, I believe. Although during Eid, I had my family on for a visit. We were unmasked, but we were sure that all of us were vaccinated. So hopefully it's not a regret in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Feel free, guys, to join in and discuss. Thank you, Mulham.
Well, thank you, Mulham, for the very important points. I just wanted to add one minor point here, which is the definition of full vaccination, which is like 2 weeks after the second dose. So some people might think that as soon as they got their second dose, they're fully vaccinated. It should be like about 2 weeks, so the immune response is complete. And afterwards, hopefully everyone is safe. As you said, Lubaba, this can be not only COVID, but I think as we go later on in the year, like around the fall season, with influenza and everything, there might be a spike in the cases of influenza because there was a very like noticeable drop in the cases of influenza last year since people were wearing masks. So it this doesn't only affect the COVID cases, but also other respiratory infections. But overall, it's at least good to have the ability, like not to wear mask or just like it's like sometimes can be privilege. You know, it's not easy wearing mask every day, all the time. So at least you can feel like you can take it off at some point, and maybe if you feel like anxious or anything, or around a large group of people or something like this, you can put it on. So yeah, this is very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marwa. Yeah, that's really valid point that you need to make sure that it's 2 weeks after the second dose of the vaccine to make sure that your immunity is up to speed of fighting the infection. And I think that I believe it is most of this kind of recommendation to be maybe suspicious about just economy. It's summertime, people trying to travel. So another restriction of traveling, vaccination or testing is that another hinder for the economy to come back. So I think this is a kind of political move too, but we need to just be vigilant ourselves and be very cautious when to take off our mask whenever we are going to. And it's really obvious from Costco, Walmart, and big retail places like announcing that you are welcome without your masks, just like more economy thing. So feel free, guys, to.
Yes, I can add some points. Actually, thank you, Mulham, for bringing this topic. It's very important. I agree with you. It's a very risky decision, and it might be wrong, might be right. But the point is, I think the CDC wants to incorporate more people and encourage them, and maybe this is incentives for some of us. If you are vaccinated, you can travel without restriction. You can gather in a small meetings without masks and so on. So I think it can increase the percentage of vaccination rate, but as you mentioned, this has to be on a state-by-state level because every state is totally different from the others. I had the news of maybe 2 days ago or 3 days, I don't remember. The death rate in many states was 1 death over 24 hours. So I think that's showing the vaccine is working, and yeah, you mentioned that point. We need to wait for maybe 3 to 6 months to show the effects, but here we are in a crisis, and we need to act fast to end this pandemic. Regarding the vaccination card, yeah, I think there are no problem. It's not that difficult if you ask anyone to present their card or any proof that they are vaccinated when going to anywhere. I think there may be some chaos, but it can be organized to some extent. Also, I want to thank Marwa for bringing this interesting and important information that you are considered fully vaccinated after 2 weeks of the second dose. I had my sister vaccinated the second dose. It was AstraZeneca, not like Pfizer or Moderna, 2 weeks ago. She was vaccinated, and the second day she got COVID. So maybe she got the infection before the second dose. So it's very important to raised this concern on waiting 2 weeks before saying that this person is vaccinated. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you. That's a great point, yeah. And the part of like, it is easy to prove that you are vaccinated and show your card. Actually, I think a smart move from healthcare providers that you need to take a picture of your card, so it's on your phone all the time. You can show it whenever, so it's maybe that can be used, but I believe it is hard in US to convince when someone doesn't want to show you anything, you can't force them to do that. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if they're gonna abide by that. Anyone else have an input? Dr. Nader, if you're talking, you are muted. I see you. Oh.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is really great. Thank you, Mulham, for summarizing and updating us with all this information. And I agree with last comment by Ali. I think the approach is to encourage some of the people who are hesitant to take the vaccine and show that people can open the country or can go into their lives if they are vaccinated. So hopefully this will have a positive effect on some of the people who are still hesitant. Time will tell. But great, thank you so much for the discussion, everyone. That's a good thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Milham, Dr. Nader, and Dr. Milham for the updates. Anyone else? Any comment about the vaccine updates that you learned about? Okay. All right. I think Marwa, you shared something.
Yes, this is a link to a free course on Coursera about writing in the sciences. I actually found in one of the sections they're talking about grant proposal and how to write grant proposal. So I wanted to share this with you because they have like a course starting, I think, yesterday, and it's for free. You can join and you can view whatever section that you're interested in. It's very important, very nice, and I think it's informative and useful one. I hope you find it useful.
Thank you so much, Marwa. Thank you. Yeah, there is another YouTube video. It's very helpful about grant writing. I'm gonna send it to the group or upload it to the app as well. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else, guys, you wanna add or comment or discuss?
I want to add one thing. When you were asking about the AGS meeting, yes. I had an unstable connection back then. So I was fortunate to attend the AGS meeting, and thanks to Dr. Nader and MSU for this opportunity. During the first day, I attended one of the presentations titled with ABC on grantsmanship. It was presented by National Institute of Aging, and actually I found it very beneficial and helped me a lot. So if you have the time, I think the presentations are available in August, so you can watch them, watch this presentation, and they are very comprehensive and formal. Also, there are many topics that I found very useful and helpful. And actually, the updates were striking for me. For instance, one of the presentations were about diabetes management. And I was shocked that the A1C is not as important as we understand to control the A1C below 7% and so on. And also the advance in medicine or in geriatric medicine in US, how we move from prescribing to deep prescribing. So there are many points that I learned. For instance, one of the presenters who was presenting the prescribing, he suggested that for an old patient who was struggling to move out from one place to other, maybe 2 blocks in the neighborhood or so, and if he is taking beta blocker, even for therapeutic value and indication in case, maybe you can consider increasing the dose because it's known that it causes fatigue and it may affect his quality of life. So moving from the therapeutic indications and the disease itself to the actual hold to look at the patient as a person. So these points I think are very valuable and important that I learned from the AGS meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much for giving us a feedback about what you attended. And thank you, Dr. Nadir, for the opportunity. It's really valuable to attend such conferences and learn about advances in medicine and in the geriatric field itself. That's the point of the deep prescribing and moving forwards with how to take care of elderly patient. I think Dr. Nadir can give us more idea, but as far as I know, polypharmacy is a big issue with elderly patients. Most likely, you wanna give them less medication more than focusing on everything need to be treated with a new medication. I recently attended a YouTube about emergency approach for geriatric patients. So actually they mentioned that many of them, for example, vital signs. When you get a patient, an elderly patient with a specific vital signs, you need to reconsider this vital signs because most of the research was being done on young adults and not applicable for geriatric. I think this is an important area that we need to think about it and why we need to be involved in geriatric research and find out what is going to be suitable for elderly patient rather than young adult. And I think the hemoglobin A1C is another point that I discussed it before with one of my colleagues. It's another thing that was based on research on young adults rather than geriatric. And I'm just advocating for geriatric future. We know that geriatricians are really short and we need to really advocate for the geriatric population and try our best to involve in research that will benefit the geriatric population in a way that we give them the quality of life that they deserve. Dr. Nadir, feel free to.
I agree with all of what you said, Lubaba, and thank you, Ali, for sharing what you learned from the conference. Yeah, so the geriatric medicine is a different approach, basically, from what we teach medical students is to look at the patient, look at the medical problem and fix that with surgery, medication, whatever. And the problem with that is as we get older, we tend to collect more disease or more conditions. So you start with hypertension, they give you 2 medication, beta blocker or whatever, and then you end up with, let's say, arthritis, they give you NSAIDs. For that, you end up with kidney problems. Your heart will not function well. So now you need to see a specialist for the heart, a specialist for the arthritis, a specialist for your kidney, and everyone will just look at their area of expertise. They give you the, let's say, LASIX, cardiologist, and then your kidney will go bad. You go to the nephrologist, will say, oh, that's not a good thing. Let's stop the basics or something. So the deep prescribing or polypharmacy is important because every one of these specialists, they look at their area. They don't look at the whole person. So the role of the family physician or the primary care physician is to collect all this information and see what make the balance for that patient. That's one thing. But the other part is we look at the person, not the disease accumulation. We look at the functional level, how well they can do things, how is their life, and then speaking about the quality of life, what's important for them to do. Some of them, it's important just to look at their grandchild or play with them or walk with them for the park, for instance. So walking for 1 block, that's important for them. So we look at the medication and see what help them achieve that goal and what prevent them from achieving that goal. For instance, patient with heart problems, cardiology will put them on statin. Statin is helpful when you use it for prevention of heart attack or atherosclerosis, but usually it takes 10 years, 15 years to have this effect. And if you have an older patient, 90 years old, then it's not gonna help much if you're expecting them to die within 5 years, let's say, and they are not able to walk 100 feet, for instance. So if you stop the medication, you may be able to let them walk for a block or something like that. And you're not doing this like when you are doing the deep scribing, you are not harming them. You're not stopping the benefit of the medication, because really there is no benefit within 5 years or so, for instance. Sometimes people use over-the-counter, let's say, vitamins or herbs or something. You want to look at the interaction with other medication and see, does it make sense to use all this together with the medication, or it's gonna harm the patient? So you may need to do some education for the patient. Sometimes the education also will go beyond the patient, because the family members will push for, I saw this on the ad or on the TV, can I put my father or mother on this? And then you want to make sure you educate them, this is not good for the patient because of so. Or sometimes the patient might be on medication for a long time and now their condition change. So you need to advocate for deep prescribing because the medication might not help as much, something like that. In long-term setting like the facility, there are some regulatory basis for deep prescribing. So the state, for instance, will come and review the medication for each patient and ask for patients who are on antidepressant to try what we call it GDR, gradual dose reduction. So if a patient on Celexa 40 milligram for the last 1 year, look at if within the next 6 months, can we reduce that to 30 milligrams or 20 milligrams and so forth. So it's kind of gradual, and we will monitor. If they have symptoms of depression, then we go back to the symptoms. If they are fine, they are going with their function, then we can continue tapering until we get rid of the antidepressant. And this goes also for antipsychotic. Some patient might be on antipsychotic for a long time. We try to decrease the dose and get rid of the medication if not useful. If it's helping the patient and the patient shows some symptoms when we reduce, then that also will push us to document that the patient needs this medication, and we will not attempt. Usually we try to attempt 2 times. If the patient fails twice, then we will not try to do that. But in general, if you have an older patient in your practice in the future, try to look at the medication and see which one the patient really benefit from, which one might not help as much as they get older, and try to get rid of these. The benefit will be, the cost will be less for the patient and the insurance. the side effects will be less, the interaction with other medications might be less. And then for the patients themselves, when they take all this medication in the morning and in the afternoon, if you reduce this, it will be the quality of life for them is better. Sometimes we can achieve that, sometimes we cannot. So it's always the balance between what the benefit, what's the risk, and the risk benefit equation goes into effect in your decision making. And if you involve the patient or the family, that will make a lot of sense. Patient with dementia, for instance, they will benefit from some medication early in the disease phase, but as they advance, the medication might not be as useful. One of the goals is to prevent them from ending up in a nursing home. The benefit is to make them function in a level that they can be independent or needs a little bit of help from the family. But if they reach a point where they are dependent and need a lot of help 24 hours, then usually that medication might not be of help. It's just an addition of burden on the patient and on the nursing staff to pass this medication to these patients that will not benefit out of it. So this is in a brief nutshell about deep prescribing. It's a big topic as we always talk about this, but thank you for letting me share with you this. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Nader. That's really helpful. When you speak about geriatric, I think it's more like a patient-centered kind of management, personalized way of managing. Thank you so much. Any other input from AGS, guys, you remembered? Oh, go ahead, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Lubaba. And thank you, Dr. Nader, for this very interesting topic you just mentioned, the importance of geriatrics. I want to share the feedback about AGS, and thank you, Ali, for mentioning that. It's thank you very much, Dr. Nader, for this opportunity. Really, it's big for us to see the different sessions, to watch the videos and understand the professional level and how it is done. And still it's available in the websites, so we can return back and watch the videos and learn from it. So that's a good thing. It still is available. We can enter using the logins and watch it. And Lubaba, I noticed that you mentioned that you were not able to attend. Please use my login. Yeah, it's really okay. You can use it and you'll watch the videos, inshallah. And everyone, you can use it immediately. Yeah. Also, returning back to the topic here, I really think that the sessions are really good. And I watched some of the sessions. I noticed that at the start, they always mention their contact, their email. So if there's a certain topic that we're interested in, we can communicate with them that this topic was very interesting. And what I liked is so and so. And we are interested to do some involvement with you. We do have some expertise in research and we want to learn from you. Most of those doctors, they have a lot of projects, they delay them and they need some assistance. So when we share our interest with them and they know we have some background of research, they'll be more likely to, yeah, I think I mentioned something. Yeah, so we need to make sure that we return back to their emails, contact them directly and see, most probably they would respond to those emails and they would, if they have an opportunity, they would provide us opportunity to be involved in the research project. And that's really a good topic to think about in terms of, because there's a lot of, actually there's about 400 or over 400 abstracts. That's a lot of topics in geriatrics in different areas. Any topic that comes to your mind, you'll find it there. That's what's really interesting about it. And what I noticed that always majority of them, of the doctors, they had interesting titles. The title was big. Some were not even scientific. Some would say, quit drinking or something, beer is important, something like that, to grab your attention. I felt it was more like I was reading magazine or something at some time. But yeah, you need to watch it. It's very interesting. It's a learning experience. You would enjoy a lot of the topics there. It is all in 4 or 5 minutes videos as well. The presentation is there and the email. That's what I wanted to say. And I'll be attending as well many of those videos today, inshallah. and it will be helpful. And inshallah, next week I'll be sharing the experience of the videos as well. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the feedback, Mulham. It's really great. And you mentioned a very important point that the contact of presenters or people that they have some topics on the AGS. And I think this is the most important thing from those kind of annual conferences, how you're going to build your communication and broaden your circle of those expertise. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think Marwa, you raised your hand.
Yes, I wanted to share just one of the case reports that of the posters that I have viewed. It's very interesting because for the most part, when you think about geriatric medicine, you would think about this is like it's different population, different kind of diseases, but actually this case was a case of anorexia nervosa in an 84-year-old lady. So the other end of the spectrum, you should at the same time expect to see something that's common in young population presenting at very late age. So this was very interesting, and the way it was presented was very nice. So I recommend this one for you. If any of you saw an interesting topic or this, please share in the group so we don't miss that. So hopefully we can try to go over as many of the lectures and presentations as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marwa. That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to watch the presentation of that. Thank you. Ali, go ahead, please.
Yes. I just remember one thing that Khalid Osman told me. I don't think he attended this meeting, but he said that there is mentorship opportunity in AGS meeting. So maybe it's an opportunity to connect with those seniors and ask them for help and so on. I didn't have time to look in depth in this mentorship, but I think you need, it might be beneficial if you go in and look for other mentors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. This is really important piece. Yeah, it's really valuable to get a mentorship from such a conference. Thank you so much. Anyone else has any comment, feedback from AGS? And for how long the posters will be available? I mean, the materials from the conference, for how long it's going to be available? Anyone know about it?
I think mid-August.
Mid-August.
I'm not sure the exact date, but until August, yes. The webinars and the live sessions won't be available, of course. And if you have any questions, you cannot pick them through the app, but still their contact information is available, and the sessions are the recorded videos are available.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think we are almost to discuss our next meeting agenda if we don't have any more inputs. I know that next week Khalid Osman will present writing manuscript, I think discussion or something. We're going to continue our AGS maybe feedback based on what you guys are going to see in the upcoming days between now and next week meeting. Any other suggestion? Okay, Ali said August 15th to be exact. So videos will be available until August 15th. That's a good time. Any other suggestion for next week meeting? Of course, if we learn new thing about CDC recommendations and vaccine and coronavirus, the hot topic of the season, so we can talk about that too. Anything else? I think if not, we can end the meeting. I believe maybe Dr. Nader is a little bit busy, but go ahead, Mulham.
Yeah, I just want to share that Dr. Nader mentioned last week that we include Sarah in the group. If she can provide her number in the chat group so that we can include her in the group so that she is involved in the discussions. That will be good. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for bringing that up. True. Sarah, if you would like to send your number so you can be added to the group.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Alrighty. We will wait for Sarah's text message and then. So a recap of today's meeting was presentation about how to write grant proposal by Dr. Ali and myself. We had great discussion about that afterwards, and then Dr. Mulham provided us with the new recommendation from the CDC regarding vaccination and precautions for coronavirus infections. We discussed that in details. We had feedback from the AGS conference from the session that people attended. Dr. Nader provided us with great points about deprescribing in elderly patients or geriatric populations. And we ended up with more points about that topic next week agenda. And then if no one else had anything, we will be saying goodbye. Dr. Nader, go ahead if you have something to add.
Thank you. Just a couple of minutes for next week. Do we have a volunteer to? I see on the app, Roa was supposed to, but I know she may be preparing for step 3 or she's busy.
So
anyone knows?
So next week is going to be Ali.
Ali, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Will be the next meeting.
Sorry, I stepped out. Did any about the topics for next week? We already have some ideas, right? Some suggestions.
Yes, so next week is going to be a presentation by Khalid Osman about manuscript writing, discussion, I believe, section and conclusion. We're going to have a lot of another feedback from the AGS conference lectures and poster from the fellows.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
More to come.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. If nothing else, we're going to ask Sarah to our group discussion so she can be active with the WhatsApp group as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Luba. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you for joining.
Nice weekend.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Khalid. Bye, Muhammad.
Thank you. Eid Mubarak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Bye. Sarah,
Yes, Dr. Nader.
do you want to stick for a second? Just I need to hear from you if you have any feedback from the previous meeting and this meeting.
Sure.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the meeting, this one and the previous one?
Actually, I find it like very informative, very helpful. Like the topics about the the grants and the application for the grants and the conferences was very interesting. I actually joined I have joined the meeting, the conference, the neurology conference about, and they were talking about the eye pain and the headache, and actually, it was very like the differential was broad, and have learned a lot about from it. Yesterday, the last time the meeting with Sumi about her submitting her grant and how it was successful experience. Actually, and today, like Baba and Ali were explaining how to apply for a grant, and this is like totally new, so I'm learning new things. And actually, I feel like I'm welcomed among the group here. Like they are very helpful, very supportive for each other. So I'm very positive and very looking forward to be like more active and more contributing during the meetings. Actually,
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I'm very glad. Excellent. Any questions? Anything that you need us to discuss, or something that you think you have idea, new ideas, or
I just am curious about the kind of topics we present during the meetings. Like it's all about grants and manuscript writings, or we choose like some kind of medical topics. So
so because it's a research fellowship, the focus on the research part, we tend to touch on some of the clinical case presentation and journal and some other aspect of the medicine. But the focus mainly is on the research. There are some slides like PowerPoint files. These from the AGS slides, and these are by topics. If you look at the app, you will find them. It's under GRS, geriatric slides, something. Yeah, but basically it's clinical based. I can show the screen. So if you go to the app, so what I did in the past is fellow, it's here. Basically, each one of the fellow looked at these presentations and try to use it as a way to improve their presentation skills. So it's already made as a video. All of this, each one of them is a video presented by one of the fellows. If you have time, you can look at them. And this way you can know something about geriatric medicine when you have time. If you click here, it will tell you how many minutes this, if you have half an hour to spare, you can look at this and so forth. What you can do is you can go to the actual files. You will go to the menu on the left side, and if you click on the GRS, it will list all these topics. And if you're interested in one or more of the topics, let's say diabetes, you click on it and you can download the file, the slide file. It's like PowerPoint slide. And what we did in the past, we went to Microsoft.com website. They have a free version of PowerPoint, which has limited abilities. It's not like the paid version, but it has very nice feature. It has a coach. I can share you also. Let's see if I can. So here, if you go to there's the office. It has the PowerPoint most likely on the left side here. And when you open, yeah. Do you have a PowerPoint or you can do that? I think I can log in. Yeah, if you log in, it will be available for you. So, So what you do is you open the file that you downloaded, let's say diabetes, you go to PowerPoint, and you will have the diabetes somewhere here. Let's say just for instance, just I open this. So you will look at the slides and read about the topic. If you have, let's say, these slides are made in 2018 or 2017, and you have some new information. Let's say, new medication came and you want to talk about that. So you can add one more slide about the new medication. If you have new reference, you can add some of the new references for you. But the beauty about this is that here, it's kind of, my computer is slow, but it has a coach approach where you can start recording your presentation the way you record any video, and it will analyze your recording, how many minutes you spend, your flow, how is it, are you fast, are you slow, are you going to say or some other words that some of the presenter uses, like or some, so some of us, we don't recognize that, we stop with these phrases or repeat yourself. Some of the presenter will say, you know, at the end of each sentence. So it will highlight what, for some reason, my computer is very slow. So it will highlight and give you a report kind of about your way of presenting, and you can improve in certain sections. So you can improve on your speed. If you are slow, you can make your speed faster, something like that. So it's give you a feedback. That's one thing we did with a group. The other thing is when they present the files here, I asked them to evaluate each other. Like if you look at here, some 11 view, that means 10 people look at the video that presented by Ali about respiratory disease, and perhaps they give Ali some of the feedback, a way of how you improve in two areas: your presentation skills, one thing, using PowerPoint and how you present and so forth. And the other thing is how you improve all your knowledge about the geriatric condition or respiratory condition in that sense. Or if you pick the diabetes, it will improve your knowledge about that topic. If you look at all the slides, at the end of each one of them, there will be a couple of case scenarios. So you will look at these cases and see how they approach the case. Hopefully it has some answers, like the right answer at the end. And if you have time, you can elaborate more on the topic itself if you want to get updated information. But these are the basics in geriatric medicine. So whenever you have time, you can look at this. Either you look at the videos done by the fellows, and if you want, you can look at the slides, the PowerPoint slides. You can download any topic. And if you want to practice, if you want to save a file, a video, you can do that, and you can upload it to the app. And you can ask us, anyone of the fellows can look at it and give you a feedback also. That's a way to understand some of the topics and also improve your skills.
This is great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. No problem. Thank you. Last meeting, you mentioned that you wanted to get some information, like on some of the vaccination information in Ohio. Yeah. So, did you have a chance, or you're busy?
Actually, I didn't have a chance the last week, but this is like will be my main focus this week.
That's right. I know some people are busy, and we are just relaxed. So it's not like you have to do this by that day or something like that. It's you are the one who leads your effort and the results whenever you want to do it. Sometimes life will bring you to priorities, things you want to do with your family or any other. So you will be busy, and we understand that. If you can squeeze time to work on some of the projects, that will be also helpful for both you and us.
Thank you so much. I have one question. So if when I start the working on the project, so do I send the follow-up and updates on the email, or just like give feedback during the meetings, the weekly meetings?
So either or. What we did in the, let's say, the couple of projects that we were doing the abstract. So what we did, we started with the idea. Some ideas came from the fellows, some ideas I brought them, we shared. And then we discussed about how we can obtain the information. Some of them interested in one project, some in another, some in more than one. And then it depends on how much time they want to spend getting to know the background. They want to search the literature about the topic, something like that. Some of the data we collected from Sparrow, so Sparrow Hospital. So Sumi and I were communicating with IT from MSU and Sparrow Hospital. So we collected the data, and then we asked the Center for Statistics at MSU to help with the statistics. So they did the statistics and gave us the Excel file with the graphs and so forth. So each abstract was written by the team for that abstract. So they work together, and then they send it to me. I correct it or improved, and then we submitted the I think for abstract to AMDA, the American Medical Director Association, the meeting. So 2 of them got accepted, and the rest were not. So we thought maybe it's a good idea to fix whatever we have and resubmit to AGS, the American Geriatric Society. So we did that. The first 2 abstract presented at AMDA, the teams work together as far as who will be the leader, who will be the presenter, who will be working on designing the slides. So it's kind of how you do the poster, and who will be presenting and who will be present at the question and answer session. So they work together as a team. So maybe 4 in one team for the first poster and 4 for the other poster. I think Marwa and Motham were, no, Marwa and Lubaba, I think, were the presenter and the American Medical Director meeting. So they were the leading persons for each abstract. So this is how we did it. And then we repeat the same process for ADS. Each poster, we call it project. Each project has a leader and has a team. The leader will direct the team as far as who will make the slides, the poster, who will present that as a video, record it and submit it to the AGS, and who will be present during the question and answer session, and they get ready for that. So kind of a team approach. In the future, we plan to work on writing articles. So this is why we are discussing last week and the time week about how you write a manuscript. So you start with the introduction. So let's say we want to write about this fellowship. So we need to get an idea about what the problem. So we know geriatric population is increasing. So we need to get some references to document that we know in US or in the general, that all world people are getting older, the numbers are increasing. So we can put some references for that. Then we talk about the health provider, healthcare provider, is specialized in geriatric medicine. So we will see that the numbers are very low, especially the trend, like those who did fellowship and graduate, those who are geriatrician certified. And we can mention that there is a difference, there is a big gap between the need and what we have actually now. So the third part and the introduction will say, we propose that we use same like what we are doing now, trying to get people who are graduated from medical school to teach them about the basics of geriatric medicine and research part, so that when they start residency, they look at the patient who are older and they can do their own research project or whatever they want to do in this population. So by that, they will be ready for the future if we need more geriatrician, or at least geriatric trained practitioners. If we can write this as an introduction to the topic, then the next thing is how we did the fellowships or the methods. So we will say this idea started in so forth, and we applied for a grant to cover the cost for preparation of this fellowship and the approach. So we advertised, some people applied, and we selected certain people according to certain criteria, and then they involved, and this is what the curriculum, we developed the curriculum, and they went into these things, and the products they end up with are projects they led and ended up with posters. In this session, we participated into conferences, and then we want to analyze how many of the people who attended this fellowship got interviews and how many got matched to our program. So hopefully this will give us an idea of if this program is successful or not, the fellowship. And then we can, the last part will be the discussion part about repeat the same point from the introduction, and then we say we have a new innovation approach using the telemedicine approach, because in the past usually the research is done on lab like bench, or actually you go to the hospital, you see the medical records, and your presence physically is required in any part. But for this is virtually based, basically. This is an innovation part. And then we can say it can be generalizable. So we can ask other people to try to start similar research fellowship in their centers. And this is one way. So we can say this might help improve the gap or fill the gap that we mentioned in the introduction. This is how we write a manuscript, and then we can submit it to a journal, see if they can accept it.
Okay, so this is like the next project, the next research project we should be focusing on.
That's what I think we should do. One more thing is now we are opening the position for new cycle. So I have some applicants who are starting the fellowship. Some of them in your shoes, like they did step 1, step 2, and they applied, and now they are planning to reapply. Some of them, they just did step 1 they didn't do step 2 yet. They didn't apply through ERAS yet. So I'm not sure. The initial idea is to help you guys who are shoes where you want to get in, but you're still struggling with the ERAS and the batch. For the new guys who are still in the process of steps and exams, and I'm trying to tell them to focus on the scores, and they can join after they finish. If they are persistent or if they want to, they can join, but I'm not sure if they're gonna be much help for them to spend a lot of time with the research part, because the score is important for many of the interviews selection. If they can get high scores, then they can join us and we can work on the research part. So if they join, then they can start new projects. So there's always many new ideas in geriatric, so we can work on that. My interest is in using technology, so how we can use computers, robots, whatever. We can telemedicine to improve the care for geriatric. And then one more idea is to think about geriatric not on the treatment aspect, like what happened and then how to fix it, but how we can prevent, like we can target groups of 50 and under, like anyone in the 20s, 30s, 40s, how we can increase their knowledge about geriatric medicine or geriatric conditions, so that from their 20s or 30s, they think about, when I get older, how do I want to become older? Do I need to work on my exercise, build my muscles so that I can be strong and I don't need a walker when I'm in my 80s or my 90s? Do I need to focus on my completely like simple thing, brushing my teeth and make sure I take care of my oral hygiene so that I don't need dentures in the future, something like that. So if we can address this in younger population, that might be a preventative approach to healthy aging from now. In 10, 20 years from now, people will be benefited from what we are doing now, something like that.
This is a very interesting topic. Both are very interesting topics actually, because we are already facing a physician shortage in the United States of America. But how about like the already ever growing geriatric population? So like the shortages be like 10 times more than the rate case is. And of course, like healthy aging and primary preventing of the consequences, like people age and having like in the 50s, they have heart diseases, they have diabetes, they have osteoarthritis, and if they want to age gracefully, maybe they need to do like some steps to prevent that and have like proper aging and enjoying their times rather than like looking for treatments, like no, just like they're enjoying their lives or their families, just we're doing like maintaining a very good healthy quality of life. So I think these two topics are very interesting. So I will do my best to pay attention to these topics as well, along with my idea of the Ohio vaccination discrepancy. And I hope I bring you good results, inshallah, next week, this Saturday.
Inshallah. Take care.
Inshallah.
Okay,
Okay,
take
thank
care.
you so much, Bismillah. And Eid Mubarak. Thank you so much.
Eid Mubarak, shukran. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.